We welcome on Bills beat reporter from Syracuse.com and friend of the drive with Charlie and Dan, Matt Parrino. Mr. Parrino, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing very well. Thanks for the time today. I can only imagine what the last week or so in your professional life has been. I mean, the news that comes out on Tuesday after the game that we saw on Monday with Ken Dorsey being let go from the offensive coordinator position, did this one catch you by surprise, and did it catch your readers by surprise at the time?
I don't think it caught anybody by surprise. I mean, this is a team that's been searching for answers unsuccessfully for the past 6 games. They're scoring points at a clip that is just uncharacteristic of this offense.
Right.
So outside of when it happened, it was a little bit interesting because coming off of a game where the offense did struggle again, but they probably did enough to win. And just that blunder at the end, letting the Broncos drive down the field and get into field goal position, and then having that disaster happen with 12 men on the field, it felt like some responsibility fell elsewhere. Matthew Smiley, the special teams coordinator, Sean McDermott as the defensive coordinator and head coach of the football team, and to have Ken Dorsey gone, it feels kind of scapegoaty a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're Sean McDermott and you're trying to energize your team that has literally lost 4 of its last 6 and been, it's evident that something's going on there. Like their energy, their confidence seem to be sapped a little bit. You got to make a big change. And this is the kind of change with Joe Brady, who is on the staff and gets, promoted to interim OC, has experience calling plays before. So maybe a different voice for an offense that's been searching for answers will be able to provide some. And I thought the most interesting thing said this week. Obviously, everybody respected Ken Dorsey.
Yeah.
Everybody was close with him. I mean, Gabe Davis said that he was heartbroken. Josh Allen took the blame and said if I was better, Dorsey would still be here. Stephon Diggs said, respect Dorsey, but maybe this is the kind of thing, the change that we need. And I thought that was telling, that maybe this is something that for all of Ken Dorsey's accolades and, everything that, he's done, and he's coordinated a pretty good offensive unit in his year and a half, it hasn't been good recently. And they had a lull at the end of last season as well. And I think that this is a move away from potentially a similar outcome as last season. Can they save the season? That's anybody's guess. But you have to do something, and Sean McDermott can't fire himself.
Right, yeah, that's also very true. The Diggs thing is so very interesting because the rumors and the going back and forth on Twitter, I'm sure as you've seen, it hasn't necessarily quieted down. And now, Rob Gronkowski giving his 2 cents on the whole situation. Could this be a play to kind of fix whatever relationship issues there may or may not have been with Diggs? Could you see it working to get Diggs back in a more positive mindset?
You can't rule it out, right? Because we don't know. And we don't know still to this day what the actual root of the problem was.
That's true.
And so without that, variable, it's hard to say what is going to get him feeling the right way. He was asked multiple times yesterday. Obviously, Trayvon Diggs, his brother, was very adamant, or animated, I should say, on social media after the Broncos game about getting Diggs out of Buffalo, and that Josh Allen's ascent only really happened when Diggs got there. Which is, I know a lot of Bills fans got really uncomfortable with that, but it's like, that is true. It's not like, I don't think it's necessarily a shot at Allen. I think it's, and it could be, but it also, is a truthful statement. And I think they've meant a lot for each other. And so Diggs was asked about how much he is unhappy or a lack of investment. And he said, have I ever shown that I wasn't? And I think you make the argument that whole situation at the end of the playoff game last year was, something worth talking about. But either way, I mean, I think Stephon Diggs knows that he is linked to Buffalo. He signed an extension here. He can't really get out of that contract. If you're the Bills, the dead cap money on it next year still is just astronomical.
Yeah.
So from a business perspective, you almost have to find a way to work together, to live together. And, Diggs even kind of said, if I did have a problem, what would that matter? That was kind of the question that he kind of threw back at the reporter. So we can sit here and talk about this around and around in a circle for as long as we want. There's no financial way to get out of the Diggs situation. So they have to keep doing things like this to make it work. And here's the interesting thing about Brady.
Mm-hmm.
His success, the biggest part of his career, happened at LSU when he helped that passing game with those awesome receivers as the receivers coach and passing game coordinator. So maybe this is the kind of opportunity that he needed with some talent, because there wasn't a lot of talent in Carolina when he got there.
Right.
And he now has a top-tier quarterback, an elite wide receiver, an improved offensive line, and an offense that statistically has been really good this year outside of just finishing and scoring points.
It's an interesting change. I love the point that you bring up about the LSU experience, because that is certainly significant, as is the previous play calling experience. But the voice you're hearing is that of Matt Parrino, again, Bills beat reporter for Syracuse.com, as well as the host of the Shout podcast. You can find that wherever you find your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. Make sure you follow him on Twitter as well, at Matt Parrino. You put out a clip on your Twitter account that I really enjoyed watching before we got to catch up today. So I'm going to pose you the same question that you posed yourself in this video clip on your Twitter account. What is wrong with Josh Allen in your mind? And is there something that's significantly wrong, or is it more tweaks that can be made here?
You know, it's all season long. Like, it's just not felt like the same guy that has been this youthful, passionate, excited, happy kid that he's been. And he talked this week about, like, excuse me, you have to evolve as a player and a person, right?
Sure.
But you're playing a kid's game. And when you're playing a kid's game, you got to sometimes just be that kid and have fun and lean into the different things that has made Josh Allen so good. And that is the swagger, the confidence that he plays with because of the weapon that he is. And if you're going to be a weapon, you've got to act like a weapon. And you can't, I think, John, the clip at the end of that I posted, that Von Miller said a couple weeks ago, you can't tame a Mustang. And to me, that is the overarching problem here, is that you have an organization that's just trying to clip his wings. And if he doesn't have his wings, he's not going to be the same guy. And if he's not the same guy, I don't know how this team can get to where it wants to go. He talked this week, too, about being, he's got to work on not getting bored when he's being asked to operate the offense and really rely on the underneath stuff, the short passing game that, when you can make big plays with your legs and your arms, and you're being asked to manage a game and move the ball slowly down the field, it could get boring. And then Dan Orlovsky said the same thing in his analysis before Allen ever said it. So it's about energizing him and getting him to a place where it's like, you go out there, be free, play your style of football, and don't try to limit who he is as a player. You gotta find some of that magic that he's had.
Hey, Matt, with Joe Brady taking over, do you think this is more of an energy move for Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, basically, to get them back to what they were prior, or do you think it's more of a deep-rooted issue that's causing Josh Allen to kind of recede a bit?
It's hard to say, because, I don't know if there's been the recession that everybody's made it out to be. He's leading the league in touchdowns. He scores more than anybody in the league as a quarterback. This is an offense. They're not scoring as much. So I think part of it is just maybe Ken Dorsey not having the answers to get them out of this deal that they've been. And so now there's no more excuses. There's no more levers that you could pull if you're Sean McDermott to try to unlock this offense. This is the move. And that's the dangerous part of a move like this, is if this doesn't work, then what do you do? And honestly, we're at the part of the season where, you're just not going to make the playoffs. And then we're going to have a completely different conversation here in a couple weeks.
Do you think heading into the Jets matchup with, it's a short week for Brady to come in and really change anything too big with the offense? Do you think anything changes schematically, or do you think it's going to be kind of just basically Dorsey's offense, a little bit of Brady's flavor thrown into it?
Yeah, I think that's probably more the likelihood. I mean, it's still going to be, even Brady alluded to it, this isn't the Joe Brady offense. This is the Bills offense. So, you're going to run what Josh Allen wants to run, what he likes to run. And I think that's an important piece of it, too, is, you got to really, if you're Joe Brady, take a page out of Brian Daboll's book, and who knows how much Ken Dorsey was doing this. He might have been, and it's unfair to him to paint it like he wasn't. But if I'm Joe Brady, I'm saying, what do you like? What do you want to come out with in the opening script? How do you want to play against this defense? This is what I learned on tape watching you against the Jets the last couple of years, against a defense that's given you all kinds of problems. This is what I think can work. What do you think about that, and how can we kind of come together and come up with a plan like, okay, if it doesn't work early, what are we pivoting to? Like for me, like if I'm putting together a game plan for this game, what have the Bills done less than they've done at all since his rookie season? Run them. Design runs are down. Like he's averaging unbelievably low number of carries per game. He's on pace for the lowest since his rookie season. Why don't you come out with like 3 design run plays on the first drive? Completely throw a curveball at them that, you know, maybe they're preparing for that. Like maybe that, hey, if I'm Robert Saleh, I'm like, maybe Allen's going to just try to run it down our throats to start the game. Like maybe they'll be prepared for it and it won't work. But try something different than you've done. They haven't been really good in the screen game. Is that an area that they can really work on this week and try to get James Cook out in space? And I know he was benched last game. He had the fumble on the first drive, but he's a playmaker in this offense that you've got to figure out a way to unlock. And, you know, is Dalton Kincaid the answer? Can you get him more involved early and often at all 3 levels of the field? Those are all questions that, you know, Joe Brady's got to answer.
Last thing for you, Matt, because you've been so very generous with your time, how do you perceive where the Jets are right now as an opponent for this Bills team? Because we saw a crazy game in week 1, but what do you see from the Jets as they currently sit, good, bad, or otherwise, for the Bills as this week's opponent?
You know, I think defensively they're just a problem for the Bills.
Yeah.
I mean, they are so physical up front that even for a Bills offensive line that I think is much better and is more built to hang with them and play with them, you could still be a really good offensive line. They're just so physical, and Quentin Williams is so special that it just takes a series of just dominant ball to just get dejected and, you know, to take you out of your game plan and make you question everything that you went into the game trying to do. And so that's what we've seen for the most part against the Jets. Even the game that they won last year, it didn't like really feel comfortable for the Bills. Like this is one team that can consistently gives them problems. So offensively, you know, this is a week where the Bills defense, even just down all these guys that they're down, you got to turn the ball over. You got to get pressure. You know, Von Miller, it's been this slow churning deal, getting him back to looking like anything close to what he was a year ago, and he hasn't gotten there yet. And you could tell week by week the frustration that comes with that with him. But maybe this is a week where if you unlock him a little bit more, that helps, generate some pressure on Zach Wilson, maybe force him to make some mistakes, because if he's just able to kind of sit there, get the ball out quick, and, you know, win the time of possession battle, like that's going to be bad news for the Bills. So I think they got to win up front on both sides of the ball as much as they can with their offensive line, and then Josh Allen has to limit turnovers, and then, you know, just go off script, man. Like go be you. Go do the stuff that, you know, has made you really good. One of the highlights from last season was that 40-yard touchdown run he had against the Jets where he kind of slid on his head,
right?
Kind of was like suspended in midair. Like that, dude, the stuff on the sideline, the juice that something like that provides, you need a little bit of that after the way that this season's gone.
And that's the guy that we've known Josh Allen to be up until this point. He is Matt Parrino, again, Bills beat reporter for Syracuse.com, as well as the host of the Shout podcast. You can download that wherever you find your podcast. Matt, thank you so much for your time today. Enjoy whatever we see play out on Sunday between the Bills and the Jets, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.